Now.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Okay, we'll have to work on that. All right. So, again, easing our way into stoichiometry. I give you 3 different routes here on your molar map. So, first off, you have to figure out what are you starting with, what are you going to. Look at the first problem. How many grams of water is produced from 25 grams of sulfuric acid? What are we starting with?
25 grams of sulfuric acid.
We are given 25 grams of H2SO4. That is way too thick. Perfect. All right. And what are we going to here?
Grams of water.
Grams of water. So our T-table starts off with 25 grams of H2SO4. Now, take a look at our mole map. I know I'm starting with grams of my first substance, so I put a finger on it. And then I put a finger on grams of my second substance because that's where we're going. Our pathway takes us through the molar mass of the first substance, the mole ratio of the first substance to the second substance, and the molar mass of the second substance. So back up here. 2 hydrogen plus 1 sulfur plus 4 oxygen. What's your molar mass?
98.01.
98.01.
I mean,
98.08.
yeah, I meant 8.
98.08
Yeah, sorry.
grams per mole. Now, hey, remember, with our T-tables, we are dealing with fractions, so we are splitting up the units. So this fraction right here Woo! Excuse me, sorry. That fraction right there is this fraction bar right here. So you are splitting up your unit. You put 98.08 grams at the bottom, 1 mole of H2SO4 on top. Okay, so next step is our molar ratio. If we go back up to our balance reaction. Oh, wait, we forgot to balance it. Oops. So, you should have 2 NaOHs and 2 H2Os for every 1 H2SO4 and every 1 Na2SO4. So, if we are doing the ratio between sulfuric acid and water, it is a 1 mole of H2SO4 to 2 moles of H2O. So, what goes on top? What goes on bottom? 2 moles of H2O is where we're going. That is compound 2. And 1 mole of H2SO4 cancels out with what I had up top in the previous section. Next step. Going from moles to grams, I'm using my molar mass of H2O. So, 2 hydrogen plus 1 oxygen, 1.01, plus 1.01, hydrogen, plus 1 oxygen, 16, equals 18.02 grams per mole. So, plug it in. Grams go on top. 18.02 grams for every 1 mole of H2O. How do we calculate? 25 divided by 98.08 times 2 times 18.02. What do you get? 9.2 grams of H2O. Start with 2 sig figs with 25. 2 sig figs. End with 2 sig figs. All right, next one. How many water molecules are produced from 50 grams of sodium hydroxide? Where are we starting?
50 grams of sodium hydroxide.
So grams of NaOH. Where are we going to?
Water molecule.
Molecules of H2O. So we have a slightly different pathway this time. We're going from grams to moles, from moles to moles, and then from moles to molecules. So technically there's only one molar mass that you have to calculate, and that's for NaOH. So, starting with 50 grams of NaOH, 1 Na plus 1 oxygen plus 1 hydrogen is 40 grams for every 1 mole of NaOH. What's my mole ratio here?
1 mole of NaOH. Oh, never mind.
It could be 1 mole to 1 mole. I'm going to just keep it with the same coefficients, even though they cancel out, 2 to 2. So for every 2 moles of NaOH, I have 2 moles of H2O. Mathematically, 2 divided by 2 equals 1, so you could just write 1 to 1 as well. Last step. This is what's different than the last problem. I'm going from moles of my second compound to molecules of H2O. What do I use? Avogadro's number. So for every 1 mole of H2O, I have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of H2O. Grams cancels out with grams. Ooh, what's going on with my pen? Moles of NaOH cancel out with moles of NaOH. Moles of H2O cancel out with moles of H2O. I'm left with molecules of H2O as my answer. How do you type it in?
30,
50
50, my bad.
divided by 40 times 2 divided by 2, or just skip it because they cancel out, times 6.022 second EE23, enter. What do you get? 7.5 times 10 to the what? 23rd molecules of H2O. All right, last one. How many moles of water are produced from 30 grams of sulfuric acid? Where are we starting? 30 grams of H2SO4. Where are we ending this time? Moles of H2O. How many steps? 2 steps. So this problem is actually shorter than the others. So what are we starting with? 30 grams of H2SO4. You still have the molar mass from the first problem, 98.08 grams for every 1 mole of H2SO4. Now, your last step is simply the mole ratio. What's the ratio between H2SO4 and H2O? A 1 to 2 ratio. For every 1 mole of H2SO4, I have 2 moles of H2O. 30 divided by 98.08 times 2. What do you get? What is it? 0.61 moles of H2O. Grams cancels out with grams of H2SO4. Moles of H2SO4 cancel out with moles of H2SO4. You're left with moles of H2O as your units.